Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Inclusiverse podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Kally Khalida. I'm joined by my other incredible host, Nic Hamilton.
Yo, yo, yo.
No, I like that intro. How are you doing, Nic?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Really excited for this one.
Oh, exciting times. So yes, today we're going to be talking about all things neurodiversity. We do have those three words that we're going to be looking at, those in words. So we're looking at individual, informative and insightful today. We have two guests joining us on the podcast. Want to introduce yourselves to us? Anyone want to go first?
Ladies first.
Okay, my name is Taylor. I am with Blue Square through the Samsung training team, and thank you very much for having me.
Fantastic. So you're working for on behalf of Brand Partnerships Group?
That's correct, yes.
Fab. And then what about you, sir?
My name is Jordan. Same team as Taylor, so I'm part of the MX training team. Fantastic. And I'm happy to be here today.
Awesome. So we're going to be talking about things all neurodiversity, and I believe you two have some neurodiversity traits that you would like to share with us.
That is correct. Yep. So I have ADHD, so attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Was diagnosed with it from the age of 7, and I've lived with it ever since. Kind of a bit of a pest, but sometimes it's nice to have it.
What do you think the misconception is of ADHD?
That we're all just hyperactive people and we can't concentrate and we're bad kids.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, and how do you feel like being able to share your experiences will kind of combat that stigma?
Just want to let it be known that we're not all the same, we're all different. Even though we have a disorder, it's not something to be ashamed of, to be honest. Yeah.
Cool. And how do you think that benefits you in the workplace?
I feel like I'm more creative with it because I can kind of think outside the box. That's what I think, to be honest, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a hyper focus that comes with ADHD,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I was to give you a task that you were interested in, how would that?
It works both ways. So with one task, if I'm really interested in it, then I would like try and get it completed. But if I see something that's a bit more interesting, then I might go off there and then bounce between both of them, to be honest.
And you said that not everyone is the same with ADHD. What are the differences?
So with some people, they can be super hyperactive, whereas some people, it might not be as much hyperactive. So from a young age, I was like bounce off the walls hyperactive. Like I had to take Ritalin to like calm me down. So I was on medication from a young age. And now going into my adult life, I've just become a bit more like mellow, I would say. So yeah.
And can it be, because I actually have a friend with ADHD and I don't know much about the disorder itself, but from my experiences with him, like he's such an amazing person. He's constantly hyper, he's constantly up there.
Yeah.
You know, but he's got such great energy.
Yeah.
You know, such a great, but also sometimes for me, I feel like he's hyper at times that are quite like inconvenient.
Yeah.
Is that normal? Is that natural?
Yes, sometimes it can just come out of nowhere. Like, if you ask my girlfriend, I'm the most annoying person in the world.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it's like I can't stop like being hyperactive, whereas sometimes it's like now, like being in work, for example, I know like, okay, cool, you need to chill out a bit, just make sure you do what you need to do. So yeah.
And then can it go the opposite way, where you're then
Have low mood.
like a real low mood?
Yeah, sometimes it can be like really hard to deal with, especially when it's like I'm going through something in terms of like work, personal life. Like when the lows are low, like they're really low. Sometimes it's hard to get out of those.
Sorry, I'm asking.
No, you keep going, Nic. You go.
And obviously, like, you know, growing up as a child, you know, did you feel understood? Did you feel like you were misunderstood by any of your friends, or?
I would definitely say yes. For most of my childhood, I was misunderstood, as when I would say like I have ADHD, I would be told don't use it as an excuse, when it's like I'm not using an excuse. Like sometimes I just can't help but be hyperactive or ask so many questions. You're just looked down upon sometimes.
And people would get frustrated with you.
Yeah, very quick. Yeah, because even now I ask a lot of questions.
And you can't help it, right?
Yeah, sometimes I can't. Sometimes it just comes out and I'll be told like, okay, can you stop now? Stop being annoying. It's like I physically can't, you know.
Okay. And when it comes to being employed and, you know, going for your first interview, you know, is it something that you are open about, you know, when you go into the interview room, you know, do you say, you know, I have ADHD and
I definitely veer away from it. Like when you apply for a job and you tick that box, or do you have any like disabilities? I always click no. I just like to not talk about it as much. That's why coming on this podcast is like good for me to like get out there, be vulnerable and all of that stuff. So yeah, I don't really talk about it.
Just one more. One more bit.
Yeah.
And okay, so you're not ticking that box or saying that you got it. Is that because you feel that that will give you less of a chance of getting in front of the right people?
I would definitely say so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And once you've now got the job,
Yeah.
do you feel like you need to explain yourself for
No.
your employer to understand you, or you just
No, I just be myself, be Jordan, and
okay?
when the chance does arise, like doing a podcast like this, I'll put it out there. But before this, like not a lot of people knew. Like I told Kally I have ADHD because she has ADHD too. So yeah, it was just something we had in common.
Yeah. So
Sorry to out you.
No,
I
no,
didn't
no,
mean
no,
to
no.
out you. That's why.
I'm trying to go through a process of being formally diagnosed, but my friends and family, you know, when you say like as an adult, I don't know if you found this, but the more I go to my parents, I'm saying like, look, I'm trying to get this, this, and this. They're like, oh yeah, we knew about that when you were a kid. We just never got you tested. Or like, oh no, like ADHD in the 90s and early 2000s was seen as a male trait. You know, as naughty boys that have ADHD. You know what I mean? I'm sure you've experienced that kind of stigma. So it's going to take 3.5 years for me to get a diagnosis on the NHS.
Really?
Yeah, unless I pay privately or try and go through a charity. So I'm like in a position where, you know, I'm not on any medications or anything like that. I definitely have a lot of traits, done a lot of different kind of online testing, and my friends and family are pretty certain that it is a definite, but I don't have a diagnosis for certain.
And do you feel like you need one? Would you like one?
I think for my own mental health, I think it would be beneficial to have that, because I have trouble with a lot of different things. One of them being, you know, I don't think before I say things, which can get a reputation of being a person that I'm really not. I struggle with high mood and low mood in terms of like, and that really negatively affects my mental health. So I go into a really dark place when I'm in a low mood, but yet I can go from 0 to 100. So you find me in a corner and I'm genuinely like sad, really, really sad. And I can't tell you why. An hour, 2 hours later, I want to play.
Yeah, back to normal.
Like I don't want to play fight with you. I want to get involved. I want to get engaged. The reason I asked you about work is because for me, I recently got a new job. Hyper focus is so important, because as a business, you can benefit so much from somebody that can see gaps where other people can't. If you're quite creative and you're hyper focused on something, you can identify issues in process. You can identify issues in work. You can identify something that a person that isn't neurodivergent can see. So you are a massive asset to a business that is trying to change their branding, trying to improve how they operate, because you are solely focused on getting that thing changed.
That's interesting you said that, because so I'm going to ask you another question, Jordan. You're going to be annoyed at me asking all this.
No, hit me. Come on.
Okay, so what do you think are your most the most positive traits of you having ADHD in your life and in the workplace as well, and then the negative sides of it?
I would say definitely, as Kally said, hyper focus. So if I want to get something done, I'm going to get it done. Creativeness for sure. Use Photoshop, all of that creative stuff, Canva. I'm a very creative person. Listening to music, if I listen to a song like more than like maybe 3 or 4 times, like I can sing the lyrics back to back. Like,
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Or something like memory as well, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
After 4 times?
Yeah.
Even less than that.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Really?
Chorus down one time.
I
Yeah.
don't know about you, I've got just under 4,000 songs on my Spotify playlists. A lot.
Yeah.
You can play any single one of those songs, and I would always put money on the fact that even if I only get the first sentence, I can sing those whole songs.
And I can remember exactly where I heard that song as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can vouch for
Locations.
that, actually, being in the car with you, so carpooling to and from work. Even my playlist, there's not a song that I can put on that she doesn't know. It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes you super, like the creative part of your brain is so in tune.
Okay, and one more question. I keep saying it's fine.
Now Nick's saying is one more.
Yeah, one more question. Do you feel over time you've had to change yourself to be more included by people, for people to not judge you for maybe your, up and down behaviours?
That's a great question.
Or have you just been yourself always?
Say from a young age, I was myself, but then I was never like accepted in school. Like I was always kind of like the outcast because I was always hyperactive. I always wanted to do stuff, whereas other kids were like, what's wrong with this kid? Why has he always got so much energy? Yeah. So from a young age, I was myself. But as time has progressed on, especially being an adult living with ADHD, it's hard, like especially being in a relationship. Like my partner's helped me a lot along my journey. So I would say around the right people, I would say I'm myself, whereas when I'm like at work or in scenarios where I have to be professional or I'm trying to make a good impression, like I put like kind of this face on, you know.
And how would you then, another question, what would you expect from people that don't know much about someone with ADHD? Like for me, with my friend, who, as I said, is amazing, I was like, wow, this guy's just super hyper. And I didn't know he had ADHD. So for someone like me that didn't know initially and had my judgment of he's just super hyper, how would you like other people to perceive people with ADHD on their just initial thoughts and feelings about someone?
I would say just normal people would just have a bit more energy and just bear with us because we are definitely a lot. I can tell you that for a fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
So more patience.
Yeah, just more patience, yeah.
I think emotionally as well. I don't know about you, Joe. I struggle I get overwhelming feelings really, really easily. I feel overwhelmed really, really easy. I struggle to deliver emotions in a really positive way. Sometimes their emotions are really, really negative and I can't express them any way other than negative.
Yeah.
You know, when sometimes people go, are you okay? You go, yeah, I'm a little bit sad. I'll just tell you everything. Yeah. Or when I'm happy, I want to tell you every single reason of why I'm happy.
Yeah.
You get it,
I'm
right?
the exact same, yeah, for sure.
And that's the benefit to you for being diagnosed as a young age. You've had, time to process it, and obviously you've grown as an adult. Taylor, talk to us about your experience with your neurodiversity and how getting kind of like understood a little bit later on at life affected you.
So I am dyslexic, which means that I have trouble reading and writing on occasion, and I also have trouble sort of talking sometimes as well. I can get over my words. I wasn't diagnosed until I was 18 when I was in college. And interesting, you mentioned earlier, sort of young girls, it seems like it's kind of not focused in on as much as it is in young boys. So it was a struggle. But yeah, it wasn't until I was in college and someone kind of noticed something in the way that I was reading, and it was a lovely lecturer of mine that actually took the time to go, maybe you should go and see the college counsellor. And that was when I got tested and diagnosed at 18. So,
and how do you think if you'd been diagnosed earlier, that would have affected you?
I had a hard time in school. I had a very hard time in school. Going into sort of senior school, so like year 7, I did quite well in English. I was actually in top set for English. And then all of a sudden, as I was going on, I was kind of getting dropped further and further through school. And then within my final year, bearing in mind I'd gone through this 5 year of struggle, I also went through a bit of bullying in my final year of school, and the school asked me to leave because they said that they couldn't keep me safe and they couldn't support me properly. Wow. And I was allowed to do what they called home study, which was I had no teacher, essentially. But I was still allowed to go in for my GCSEs, which I then failed. And during my English one, they actually just kind of gave me a book and said, you're going to have to just read through this quickly and then answer these questions on it. And obviously, as a dyslexic, you can't read quickly. It's not really how it works. But yeah, and then that kind of obviously affected me going into college. I had no English GCSE, which was a bare minimum for going into college. So I then struggled to get onto a course. But yeah, once that was kind of understood, it was kind of like, oh, right, okay, that's why. It's not just because I can't keep up with people. It's because there's a reason. And then the support kind of was there. But again, it was sort of earlier. So it was like, here's a laptop. And that was what they knew how to do. Or like, here's like coloured sheets of paper that you can put over a reading and it can help you focus your eyes properly. But yeah.
I think bullying in school is prevalent for any kind of thing that is not seen as the norm. Whether you have a disability, whether you struggle with mental health, whether you have a different sexuality, whether you are neurodivergent. I feel like there is a prerequisite that kids will always look for something that is not their version of normal, right? And that could even be imprinted from their parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be open and honest with this. And my question to you, Taylor, is: do you feel that a lot of people at your school or growing up felt that dyslexia was like an excuse for a lot of problems maybe that you'd be having at school? Because I've had it with people like, oh, I'm dyslexic, and I personally have been like, yeah, whatever. But I've never really understood the severity of what dyslexia could actually do.
Yeah.
And so that's, very narrow-minded of me. So I know I've been that sort of person where I think my uncle was like, I'm dyslexic. I'm like, whatever, uncle. You know what I mean? Sort yourself out. Be honest and open. But have you experienced that? Do you feel that there's a lot of people that, use that, felt that you were using it as an excuse?
Yeah, 100%. I think sort of when you were growing up in school, if someone was dyslexic and had a laptop, everyone would kind of go, well, why does he get one and I don't get one? And then just go, well, what about me? And it's very me central. And I think that's where a lot of the preconceptions come from, that, you just want extra time on your exam. You just want to be taken out of class to go for support lessons and things like that. And it's nothing to do with that. You'd actually rather just, especially at that age, just blend in and just be like everybody else.
Yeah.
And not have to get up and walk out of an exam because you physically can't process your brain to put words down on paper. And I think you get frustrated over that, but then you're also getting frustrated with the other people who do question the authenticity of being neurodivergent. I'm sure you've had it as well with ADHD. There's a massive boom.
It feels so demoralizing when you have to walk out of the exams and everyone's looking at you. It's like, where's this guy going? And then you sit in a room for an extra 15 minutes and then it's like, why am I here? Like, I know I need extra time, but it just doesn't feel nice.
Yeah.
I personally think neurodivergence is not something that people should expect to know. For one, you don't get a right to understand, you get a right to understand, but you don't get a right to know that I'm neurodivergent. And also, it's not an excuse. It's about lack of understanding. So for me, as an adult, mine's gotten even worse. My dyslexia is even worse. So text messages, I have to proofread, and emails 3 or 4 times. I probably sent text messages to a number of people in this room that are not coherent. Looking at my old line manager in the back there. And
old?
having to, Scott used to be my line manager, and he is.
Oh, so you meant old looking,
old looking.
He's currently mine.
He is used to those messages that don't quite necessarily make sense. But I've noticed in messages that you've sent me where spelling errors, I understand them. And it's like,
we're connected.
It's like we have our own language.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like, because I'm not diagnosed, I don't have a doctor telling me, I don't feel like, can I have these conversations? Is it valid? Because I don't have that diagnosis attached to me. And I don't want to, take up a space by somebody and that somebody who is genuinely diagnosed has. I tick a lot of boxes, and, a lot of people can see that.
But speaking to Jordan, like, if he tells me he's got ADHD, I wouldn't know any different as to whether he's been diagnosed or not diagnosed. So you go with what you feel. So if you feel you have ADHD and you're not diagnosed, who knows? Exactly. Other than you.
I'll give people a directory for my family members and my friends, and they'll definitely be able to tell you. No, it's Taylor, everything that you said about being bullied and then and then having that later on in life really hit home for me, because I'm in exactly the same position. Having extra time and having technology at 18 years old when you're doing your final year of A-levels is great. But having that understanding when I was a child would have saved me a lot of mental torment. Fighting with yourself, you're fighting back at people that just think you're lazy, and you're why don't you read more? Why don't you like reading? And it's not like
it's taken you that long.
Yeah, it's not like I don't like reading. It's like it takes so much brain power to get through a book that for me it's just easier to watch content.
Yeah.
If somebody is literally word for word read a book out to me, would be easier for me than reading a book myself. And that's not lazy. That's just the fact that it would take every ounce, like a working day would take me the same amount of energy that a really stressful working day would take.
Get distracted so easily.
To read even a few chapters of a book.
Audiobooks are a lifesaver.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, same with me, actually. Maybe I'm a little bit dyslexic. I hate reading books. I can't read books. It takes too long to actually process through my head.
For me, it's mathematics. I just can't get with maths. I don't know what it is. From a young age, could never do sums, times tables.
And what really interests me with you, Jordan, is the fact that, you know, you don't almost want to fill out the form saying you got ADHD. Then you go, you get the job, you smash the interview, you do an amazing job. Now you've got the job and you're in the workplace. You don't want to even mention you got ADHD just in case someone may perceive you in the wrong way. Or
I guess from a young age, I've always been told, like, stop using it as an excuse, especially coming from an ethnic background as yourself, especially the older generation. It's like, there's nothing wrong with you, you're good. But I think with the like heighten of like COVID and we're all in lockdown, like mental health awareness has become like this big thing, which I think is amazing. So I guess that's given me the confidence as well. Like now mental health is in a space where you can talk about it and you're not judged, because a lot of people are going through it and you would never know.
And have you been in any scenarios or situations where your employees have judged you based on how you've been acting, but not actually know that it is ADHD?
No, I just say I'm just having a bad day, to be honest. It's like something I just would never talk about.
And you never use it as an reason?
Well, to like my family members, I'm like, if I'm like annoying or it's like I can't do this, like, remember guys, I do have ADHD, and it's just like, no, stop using it as an excuse. So when it comes to employers, I just veer away from it. But now I'm employed. You're not getting rid of me, guys. I'm here. I think I'm here to stay.
Somebody tell fun that everything.
BPG and Jordan Mars for life. See, and Taylor, for you, when you're, you know, talking about dyslexia in the workplace, what as a business do you think that we can do in order to support the awareness and the you know, the people that are neurodivergent?
I feel like it comes down to a lot of patience and a lot of understanding. I mean, we do a lot of work in front of camera for our jobs and read from a teleprompter. And there's this big glory put around being a one-take wonder of being able to read it all and get it done within 5 minutes. And obviously for someone with dyslexia, it's a lot harder to do. So stop glorifying those moments as much and excluding the ones who maybe can't do that for a reason. Or, you know, if someone, there's a lot of times where I'll read and I'll mix up and I'll make a joke out of it and go, sorry, dyslexia. And I think I'll probably add to that problem, because then it just gets shrugged off because I'm making a joke out of it. So people go, oh, well, it doesn't really matter. In regards to the workplace, I think doing things like this and building awareness about what dyslexia actually is, what it can affect, and, you know, taking the time to ask questions as well. Like there's been times where I've been heavily judged for not watching a certain TV show that rhymes with mid-mims, because everyone says read it with subtitles on. It's like, oh, it's not that easy. So just have that patience and that understanding. I think we live in a world now, especially in our world, with a lot of tech. Like I could not do the job that I do without spell check. Physically couldn't. It wouldn't be possible.
I agree with that.
So yeah, the technology, the way that's advanced now is been a real lifesaver.
Yeah. For me too. I would say just doing things like this, talking about it in an open discussion, no judgments, just understanding and taking the time to speak to someone with neurodivergence is the big help, I would say.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you guys coming in and being open and honest about it. I know, Taylor, you said you were super nervous before we started this, but there's no nerves at all coming from you. And Jordan, thanks so much for being so open and calm and relaxed and just chilled about talking about anything that you wanted to. So hopefully you can feel that, you know, this place, this room is an accepting place. It's a non-judgmental place as well. That's what we want it to be all about. You know, everybody feels accepted and included in the Inclusiverse podcast.
Yeah, definitely. And Nic, for you, what's been your biggest takeaways? You know, you said you've, you know, been interacted and had friends that are neurodivergent, maybe not necessarily neurodivergent yourself. So what has been your kind of biggest takeaway from this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my friend, I've dealt with him for a good number of years now, and I've just learned more and more about him just on a daily basis. But actually, you know, hearing Jordan's story and him going into more detail, it's just really helped me for when I'm, you know, next speaking to my friend. I struggle with patience, just generally. I think it comes from my family. I don't know, but I struggle with.
Really all been there.
I struggle with patience with people, but I know that just because he's got ADHD, you know, I may need to be more patient. But I was just doing that as a guess. Now I know it for sure. Now I know for sure I have to be more patient. I have to be more understanding. And less grumpy with him sometimes. Yeah, because sometimes I can be oh, sake, you know. But really, I've learned so much, and Taylor, you've been so honest and open, and I really, really appreciate it. It's taught me so much. So, you know, this is amazing. This is why I started wanted to be a part of this podcast, because I was gonna be like, well, I'm going to be asking loads of questions, because there's lots of situations and topics that I don't know about, you know, and I don't want to be seen as someone that knows the answers or knows about every topic, because I think it's great to be open and being like, right, well, I don't know anything, so I want you guys to teach me. And you've taught me a lot today, so thank you.
Thank you for having us.
It's been very informative kind of episode. It's been really insightful, and having your own individual stories has kind of helped come together with, you know, a better viewpoint of like how you feel as somebody who is diagnosed. And you and I share similar situations in terms of being diagnosed late, and we feel very, very strongly about the fact that there needs to be more awareness and more support for parents for when their children are showing signs early on, so they can get them tested, because it will save a lot of kind of mental warfare, you know, later on in life. So thank you both so much for joining us, and Nic, thank you for asking all of your questions.
No, I mean, I answered so many.
Very, very useful. You can catch us on all of your favorite podcast streaming services, and if you go over to brandpartnershipgroup.com/inclusiverse, you can submit some questions, suggest future episode topics, and also apply to be a guest on another episode. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all in the next one.